Hitman 3 VR Reloaded is the long-awaited game that finally brings the Hitman franchise to the MetaQuest headsets. But how good is it really, and should you play it? Let's dive right into it. For those who are new to this game, Hitman follows a bald assassin who is also known as Agent 47. And what most people love about it is its unique aspect of a sandbox-style experience where you have to eliminate your unfortunate targets in any way you can think of. This even lets some players pouring hundreds of hours into the game finding all the unique ways to take out their enemies. So when we got a new version of the last game in this trilogy specifically made for VR, the hype for it was of course out of control. So let's break it down by starting with the gameplay. Hitman 3 VR Reloaded has all these stories and levels of the original game built into it. However, it is not just a port, but instead a complete recreation of it. That means that if you have played it before, you will directly feel familiar with its world. While for completely new players, the mission stories will give you a guided route to enjoy taking out your targets for the first time. And the various challenges and methods also become a lot easier the more you play each level. So pulling off a clever move, like leading your target into their own accidental doom, can feel very satisfying. But it is also fun when things go completely wrong, like quickly snowballing it from a stealth mission to an all-out blazing fight while you still try to finish what you started. That means that being spotted or hunted down isn't the end of your mission, but instead it offers an interesting and very challenging way to finish it on the fly. Now the game itself also has some important new additions when it comes to the VR interactions. For example, you can now dual wield your items or weapons, like simply throwing a coin with one hand to distract the guard, while having your gun ready in the other. Another feature like this is the new smartwatch, which has the mission map on it, and the 2 slots for your most used inventory items, so that you can quick and easily equip them. But it also has some big limitations. While you can move your hands to climb poles and ladders, it is often when you hand over or throw a specific item that you have to do this with just a simple button press. This also goes for reloading your weapons, whereas most modern VR games let you do it manually. But here, it is just an automatic animation, which kind of takes you out of the entire VR experience. But while the gameplay itself can definitely be great, we also have to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is of course the graphics. Sadly, it seems like a lot more than just the game's realism had to be sacrificed when porting it over to the Quest. And while it is definitely playable, some of its charm is lost because of this, with most of the game's cinematic cutscenes being completely gone and a lot of muddy textures, popping geometry, and blocky copy-paste NPCs present everywhere. Of course, we did expect some downgrades when such a big console title is being made to run on a standalone VR headset like the Quest 3, but perhaps not as much as they did now. Luckily, the developers did mention that a lot of these bugs and glitches or other problems with frame drops will be fixed in their next updates, which hopefully should solve a lot of these problems and make the game a bit more enjoyable when it comes to the immersion. But it is very important to mention, since a lot of the trailers don't really show this as clearly than when you experience it for yourself. For example, on the Horizon store page, you will find some rather smooth and snappy headline images of the game, which were likely very carefully chosen to make it look as good as possible, so that people would then get this game based on how it looks. But in reality, or in this case in virtual reality, you might feel let down once you realize that these images are far from how the game actually looks and plays. Even so much so that a lot of people started to turn back and refund the game, since they felt like it was way too far from their original expectations. So if you have already played Hitman 3 in the past, or if graphics are important for you, then this is definitely something you should keep in mind. However, one part where the game does do very well is when we look at the comfort. With most of the standard options that you come to expect, like snap turning and controller-based movement, all available from the start, with also the possibility to be changed to your own situation and preferences. And since most levels are just on a single plane, you won't have any forced artificial locomotions like riding a minecart or something of that nature, meaning that people that are new to VR and VR veterans alike should all be able to play it without having an issue of getting motion sick. But that gets us to the final conclusion. Hitman 3 VR Reloaded is a recreation of the original title that, while including all its missions and content, does seem to miss the mark when it comes to the graphics and performance, with a lot of glitches, popping, and overall muddy textures. And although the gameplay can be very enjoyable, it doesn't take away the many big problems that are present right now. So even with the updates that the developers have planned to fix the bugs and glitches, it just feels like it lacks a lot of important features that you come to expect from a VR game, especially with a big title like this. So honestly, at the moment, it might be best to wait it out. And if they somehow manage to completely turn the game around, then I do think it has the potential of becoming a great VR title for people that are both new to the franchise as well as fans of the Hitman trilogy, because I honestly think that this is what this game deserves, since it has such a huge fan base behind it. But of course, only time will tell. But that's not all, because there are also some other must-play VR games for your Quest headset. So click on the video that you see on screen right now to make sure you don't miss out. And of course, stay awesome.